to galacticconnection.com, one of the most popular blogs on the World Wide Web today for alternative news. Stay tuned for the latest information on our world shift from enslavement to galactic involvement, as well as current intel on any blockages impeding us from our sovereign birthright. Knowledge and self-mastery are key at this time. Our commitment is to present you with the latest breaking conspiratorial articles, off-world messages, exopolitics, cutting-edge technologies and sciences, and also an ever-significant intertwining of spiritual support and metaphysical scope that one needs to dive down the rabbit hole in search for truth with balance. We are truly on the horizon of a new golden age filled with the promise for more love, worldwide peace, and accelerated intuitive skills, where every living being can exist in cohesion and abundance. It is whatever we envision and dream this new world to be. I say to you now, let's redefine the new world to the beginnings of our own precious heaven on earth. Galactic Connection is here to provide the pulse of Mother Earth through an eclectic range of interviews each Tuesday afternoon from 3 to 4:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Station 2 on BBS Radio, expanding your perspectives on how we can once and for all take back our freedoms, our joy, and our connection with our mighty I Am presence. Our intention remains true to connect hearts and minds everywhere in order to obtain global unity and galactic and universal acceptance. Our discussions will continue to cover anything to do with galactic society and our involvement with our galactic brothers and sisters. Our guests are experts in their fields, and our radio shows have been coined as some of the most thought-provoking out there. In addition to our daily blog, which runs 365 days a year, we also offer a realm of healing services such as our world-renowned implant removal processes, our spiritual past life clearings, our galactic violet ray alchemy from Alexandra, who shares in the lineage of Merlin, and other cutting-edge healing technologies. Check our site out at galacticconnection.com now, sending you a wave of light, love, and inspiration, and a personal hug and thank you for listening to our Galactic Connection radio show and visiting our blog today. This is Alexandra Metters of GalacticConnection.com, and today is October 8th, 2013. Man, do I have a special guest with me today, filmmaker Craig Campobasso. In 1980, he was actually working behind the scenes for 4 years on Frank Herbert's Dune movie. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that. He has one of the most amazing backgrounds. He's been involved in casting and producing. Well, have you been a producer too, Craig?
Just starting, yes.
Okay. And a filmmaker. I mean, I was kind of floored because you're a casting director, a producer, a director, a writer, an actor, and a coaching director.
Yes, and an acting coach, yes.
Amazing. And he's been involved in all sorts of movies like Amazing Stories, Prancer, Picket Fences, Tremors 3, Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. I love that movie. Total Recall, which is one of my faves, and Conan the Destroyer. I mean, I could go on, but I am absolutely amazed, Craig, by your background. And one of the things I really was interested in talking to you about was the fact that you want to provoke the reader to think and raise their consciousness. So yes. I welcome you to the show today, and I would love for you to just share with us a little bit about how you even got that idea to begin with. I mean, is this something you were born to do, was to get into the movies?
You know, I always wanted to work in the movies ever since I can remember. And when I was coming up, you know, I always told my mom that I wanted to be an actor. And when I was, just a preteen and then a teenager, and she would always say to me, from the time you were in my stomach, I would always hear that you came here to be a writer.
Whoa.
And And, you know, and she would always tell me about, but she also, whatever I wanted to do, she helped me, you know, get into it. So, you know, I went and I started acting, I think, when I was 15, and, you know, little bit parts in commercials and things like that.
Wow, that early on, huh?
That early on, yeah. And then I started, right out of high school, I went to work on Dune for 4 years, learned all about filmmaking there, and we also made Conan the Destroyer at the same time. So we were at Universal Studios, but we were actually shooting this down at a Studios Churubusco in Mexico City, both movies at the same time, simultaneously, and yeah, it was an amazing time. I learned an awful lot about filmmaking, and then when the 4 years of Dune was up and Conan was done, our producer, Rafaela De Laurentiis, who's Dino's daughter, and if you watch the Food Network, Giada De Laurentiis is her niece.
Yeah.
So anyway, so of course I've known Giada since she was like 10 years old. So you know, she's so adorable, I can't even stand it. Anyway, so Rafaela asked me, you know, she said, well, what department did you like, you know, during this long experience? And I said, you know, I think I like casting. So she put me on her next big movie, Taipan, as a casting assistant to start learning. And then when I was finished there, I got a gig on Amazing Stories for a season and a half. And then I went back to the De Laurentiis family and started casting movies for them, and that was 30 years ago.
Oh my gosh! So it's true that, you know, it's like you were born with this hunger to get involved in film and that sort of thing. Well, when did you really kind of dive into your spiritual walk?
Well, the spiritual walk actually came, I was 26 years old. I had just finished Amazing Stories. I had my own amazing story occur where I woke up into not only spirituality, but universal spirituality. I was being visited in the dream state by master teachers, and they were feeding me energy modules of information that would go into my cells, and all of these ideas and things and awakenings in me. My first awakening actually happened when they fed me gold light, and I literally, and I'm not kidding, I was casting. I had an office on Sunset Boulevard in a beautiful office, you know, overlooking the entire city. And I would have actors come in my office, and when I would see somebody, I would recognize the beauty of who they are on the inside and what their path was.
Nice.
And I would start to weep. And everything I saw, the beauty behind the creation of it. So I cried for 8 months straight, anywhere from 8 to 12 times a day, and they were not cries, they were sobs. They were such deep sobs that it was like a purification of the soul, almost. Is how I look at it. And when that was ready, then I sat down and I started writing. And I wrote a 400-page book about all of these experiences I was going through. I went to Mount Shasta after that. I was able to stay in this beautiful log cabin all by myself on someone's property. They were in the main house, and they said, "You get the cabin." I was like, "Really?" And it had a view of the mountain, and I
was going to say, Craig, did you think that somebody wanted you to write?
I kind of think so.
Yeah.
You know, so interestingly enough, that night I had a major experience with the I am that I am, and which is too long to go into right now, but I came home with all of those encodings, and when I came home, one of my master teachers actually said to me in a meditation, "What would you say if we told you just wrote that first book for yourself. And I went, wow, I really learned a lot about myself. You know, like putting it on paper and examining it and,
Definitely.
you know, all of that. And he said, now it's time to sit down and write the real book. And that's when the Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga, I Am Thyron, began.
And I'm here to tell you, I am loving your book.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Oh my gosh, I'm not finished by any means, but it truly is. It is really well written, and it keeps your attention. And I see so many interweavings with the spiritual aspects that you can kind of step back and think about within your own true self. It's really, really well done. Seriously.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was, you know, it wasn't a book that was written overnight. It was written over a span of 26 years. And by the way, the book really was 900 pages. Just so you know. But of course, my agent at the time and all of them said, nobody's going to read a 900-page book, you know, so you have to cut it down. So what I did is I cut it down. I did a bit of a prequel. So book 2, I'm just finishing book 2 now, which will probably come out next year. But
well, you know, Craig, I was going to ask you, do you feel, I feel that one of the reasons that you and I ended up, you know, communicating, because I think one of the people that's in my audience asked me to interview you. I think that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
But I think the other reason I was so drawn to you is the fact that you really, truly are bringing forth a new lens to Hollywood as far as a way to see, I like to call them off-worlders instead of extraterrestrials. And I wanted to know, like, have you had any kind of resistance from that, and how, if or if not, you know, how have people reacted to you presenting that different way of looking at things?
Well, I find that there are a lot of closeted people. Like you know, it's not like I go around and I you know, tell people, you know, things. But if they happen to find out, because, you know, the book is online and all these other projects with this kind of base are also online, you know, of course I will share with them the information, and a lot of them already are feeling that way. But the major Hollywood, the studios are not. They're only into making money. So what we have to do first is get one of these giant projects out there, and once it makes money and people see, you know, then they'll, you know, then all of the, as I call them, the little, you know, if you want to call them the light workers on the planet, who have been getting all of these great spiritual stories ready, you know, over all these years, then all of those will start to come out of the woodwork. But you see, it's an amazing thing the way everything is working, is that now you can make your own movie. You can do whatever you want. You know, there are red cameras out there. There are, you know, DPs who will work for Bupkis with red cameras, and you know, you can raise money, and you can make these films, and they could start to see the light of day, and then they can start, you know, they get more and more and more. And that's what I'm doing with Stranger at the Pentagon, which I know we'll talk about.
In fact, you kind of beat me to the punch, because that's one of the things I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about. And is that your first endeavor in bringing forward something that's on more of a off-worlder and spiritual aspect? Well,
the book I Am Thyron is really the first thing. Okay. I met Dr. Frank, who wrote Stranger at the Pentagon, in 2001. Became really, really good friends with him. Had lunch with him every week, talked to him on the phone almost every day. And it was never my intention to write the screenplay to Stranger at the Pentagon. But through a whole course of events, I ended up writing it and sitting with him, and I would just say, well, tell me a story when you were on Victor 1, which is Valiant Thor's flagship, which holds up to 200 people, right?
I was going to ask, you know, what is the significance of Valiant Thor's location over Lake Mead? Is there any?
Well, I'm sure that there is, but all of the Victor-class saucers are stationed around the world, and all of those locations are in the back of Stranger at the Pentagon.
Okay.
So Victor 1 was initially stationed in Henderson, Nevada, and then I think in the early 80s they moved it to Lake Mead. My feeling is to put some good energy over Las Vegas, maybe. I don't know.
You think? You think that's maybe one of the greedy...
You know, the sin capital of the world? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I love it.
So the flagship ship is there, and they're all, they're numbered, Victor 1, Victor 2, Victor 3, and there's, I think, 287 locations where the Victor-class saucers are stationed in and around the Earth, and there is a starship which is 14 miles long and 7 miles wide, which is up in the atmosphere where the saucers travel back and forth on blue beams.
Would you think they would have probably increased the number of locations by now? Because that book.
I'm sure that they have, but we're just talking. We're also just talking about him.
Yeah.
If we get into the whole galactarian alignment of space peoples and planets, this planet is just inundated. Because it's the next planet and that's what AM Thyron's about. It's about that whole program of raising consciousness so that everyone on Earth will come out of duality into being fully conscious. Then we can join with universal society and become a part of the whole alignment of space peoples and planets.
And truly be taken out of quarantine. I mean, supposedly quarantine has been brought down, but we really still are so embryonic and so warlike, as on a mass basis,
Yeah,
but,
and they've done this so many times with so many planets. They definitely know what they're doing, and there are no timetables, there are no time frames. It happens in the moments that it's supposed to happen. So, but as we know, there has been much more upliftment in spiritual energy because people are really looking to their spiritual selves and wanting to grow. So
I so agree. Now you mentioned that you and Dr. Frank Stranges grew very close. What do you feel was one of the most memorable things that you learned from him?
He was probably the kindest, sweetest man I think I ever met. All of my friends adored him, by the way. His birthday, my birthday is October 5th. His is October 6th. So it would have been another Libra. And so when I'd have a big birthday party, I'd include him. I said, okay, we're going to have a birthday party together. So he met all my friends and and everyone just fell in love with him. And I thought, being around somebody like Valiant Thor and his crew and the starship, because he did travel there on several occasions, he said, to be around people who are fully conscious, him just telling stories about when he was feeling down and how they would hold him, or how they would just do simple things to help alleviate what he was going through,
Oh, that's so cool.
And it makes me cry to even, I'm having a hard time talking right now because to see the expression on his face, and I understand that as well because when I write the master teachers and the crew members, when I was writing Stranger at the Pentagon, they come and they share their feeling body with you, so you understand who they are as a complete being. And it's so beautiful when they share that you weep. You literally just weep. And when you get a created being or you get an angelic form doing that, my God, forget it. You're gone. You just sit there and sob and sob and sob. So. And you know what?
People don't realize that the individual things we do every day for ourselves that not only raise our consciousness, but the kindnesses and the considerations that we have of others, they truly do affect a much larger number of people than people really realize.
Yes,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
And that's why film is such a huge conduit for raising the consciousness on this planet. That's why I just commend you for going down this path.
It's the teaching vehicle, and that's why I've, especially with Stranger at the Pentagon, decided to do a short film as well. Because when I did Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, Cary Conran, who was the director and the writer, he made a short film, and that's how he got the film financed. Because, today, you go in, you pitch it to a studio, they go, I like it, I don't like it, I like it if you change this.
Right.
Yeah, and you go, okay, well, you can't change it. It's a story.
Yeah.
It's in a book.
It's not retaining its original purity either.
Right. It has a fan base since 1967,
Right. Well, you said something. I think it was your Facebook page. You said that the behind-the-scenes film had been completed as of the 25th of September. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, I did a little behind-the-scenes for all the fans who helped with the short film. We did a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo. We're in visual effects right now. And I'm still trying to raise money to finish the film. So, people who can't, the Stranger at the Pentagon book is going for $100 to $300.
Oh my gosh!
The original one, I just looked on Amazon from 1967, and I have one copy, is going for $1,000 to $2,000.
Wow.
So the publisher gave me a lot of cases of books, because they went out of business.
And tell them about your perks. As far as
somebody, for like $25 you get the Stranger at the Pentagon book, and I Heart Valiant Thor wristband, and you get a bunch of cool behind the scenes stuff. And there's also a color brochure that the publisher gave me that I have in in sort of in a PDF form that they get also at the 25, donating $25, with the color pictures of Valiant Thor and Vice Commander Dawn and Jill, who is the blonde in the photograph. She is actually married to Vice Commander Zan, who is the doctor on the ship, not for them, but for Starseed.
Now, you know what, Craig, for those that are not that familiar with Dr. Frank Strange's and his experience back in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Can you give everybody a little bit of a background as to who Valiant Thor is? And
sure.
One of the things I wanted you to review, which is so important for everyone to know about this very special being that came to this planet, is his intention to eliminate sickness and disease and poverty. If you know anything about that, please share it with us.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if any of the listeners want, they can go to the website, strangeratthepentagon.com. On the homepage, I did I think it's like an 8-minute video of the whole story, a capsulated version of the story in a video, and there's some other little short videos from the movie, little teasers. But Dr. Frank actually, Valiant Thor came and landed in Victor 1 on Saturday, March 16th, 1957. He came to meet Eisenhower. He was greeted by 2 policemen who took him to the Pentagon. He therefore, this was at 8 a.m. in the morning, by the way. So by noon, he was actually meeting with Eisenhower, Nixon, some of the Joint Chiefs. Remember, they all had to be called in. And actually, it was actually Pat Nixon's everybody when they meet or even see Valiant Thor, they become instantly they just know that this is a man of good and righteousness, and you just know that he's some kind of angelic creature. You just know it, So
can't even imagine.
Yeah, I know, and
well, especially back in that era, that was such a paranoia enriched time period,
right,
with the nukes and everything else, and the fact that he chose to land on a Saturday, the fact that these two cops, they didn't even handcuff him or anything, they just kind of brought him in there.
Yeah, they had their weapons drawn, and then when he walked out and they saw him, they just lowered it, and then they just talked, and they said, okay, and they radioed ahead and, took him in. So,
well, don't you think they kind of caught them off guard?
Well, I'm sure, anybody would be terrified not knowing what's going to walk out, but he did it out, he landed out in an agricultural field where there wasn't a lot of high traffic or anything like that. It's not like he landed on the White House lawn.
Right.
So, anyway, he came with a divine design to eliminate sickness, disease, poverty, and to prolong life, and asked Eisenhower if he would implement it throughout the United States, and once they saw that it worked, throughout the world. And he immediately put him on VIP status, and he for 3 years where Valiant Thor lived at the Pentagon. So he lived in there was apartments and different stuff. So when you go way down below, so
that's what I was going to ask you. I was not aware of that, and I was wondering why was he basically homed or housed within the Pentagon for 3 years.
Within the Pentagon, because that's where they housed him there. Actually, I don't know where they housed him. They couldn't house him in the White House, but anyway, I had met many generals, retired generals, with Dr. Frank, and had conversations about those living quarters and the train that goes from the Pentagon to the White House underground, and how he was brought back and forth to the president and vice president, etc. And all of the retired generals had also confirmed that as well. And so he was there. Dr. Frank in December 1959 was doing a 2-week lecture in Washington, and one of the secretaries of Valiant Thor had befriended, whose name in the book is Nancy Warren. He sent her to fetch Dr. Frank and bring him to him, because Dr. Frank used to do UFOs and the Bible. So he would talk about Ezekiel, and he would talk about all, proof that there was life elsewhere. So
that wouldn't that be one of the reasons that they chose to contact Dr. Frank?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, they chose to contact him because he was open to the message. So long story short, he went and had about a half hour or more meeting with Valiant Thor, who told him a few things about himself as well that he did not know, which he confirmed with his parents. One being a brother before him passed away at birth, and and that Dr. Frank was actually going the same way, but he was helped along a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, right. A little bit.
So anyway, so that's how that went, and Dr. Frank ended up, so we had that initial meeting, and then Valiant Thor left on March 16th, 1960. He came back a year later. On March 16th, 1961, he visited Dr. Frank right away. He has been here, his whole presence has been here the entire time. And they oversee and they report back to, the alignment of space peoples and planets, of the goings-on and the different things. And, there are certain things they're allowed to interact in and some things not.
Did Dr. Frank ever tell you the significance of the date, March 16th?
No, he didn't, but somebody else recently told me, who is into starseed astrology, that it is a really profound date, I think, of Mary, of the Virgin Mary or something.
Interesting.
Can't remember.
I'll have to dig
in. Yeah,
I
think it was. Yeah,
that one.
You'll have to try it out and see. I think what they had said was it was a date of energies of Christ and Mary. Not Mary Magdalene, but Mary the Mother.
Right.
Interesting. It had, and I went, wow, well, that's an interesting, then that's an interesting place.
I mean, you have to know these guys don't do anything happenstance. I mean, everything,
no.
Everything they do seems to have some sort of purpose. But did Dr. Frank Stranges, did he actually share with you in any of the stories the frustrations or anything that were felt by Valiant Thor when he was working with our government for 3 years?
Well, there were many, many frustrations, and I know that when they turned the proposal down, that they were all extremely saddened, because that was the mission in coming here, to get that going. And by the way, he said that Eisenhower and Nixon were for it. It was the Joint Chiefs and the other powers that be that were not for it, because it would eliminate hospitals, doctors, pharmaceutical companies, and put all of those people out of business.
Of course.
So,
and of course, it would eliminate their power structure,
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that, he said that they all actually shed tears, but Teal, who's also one of the vice commanders, there's four vice commanders on Victor 1. There's Vice Commander Dawn, Teal, Thon, Thonn, and Zan, Zann. And they were all quite,
disappointed.
Quite really disappointed and very sad as well. There is also another created being on board Victor 1, like Valiant Thor. And created beings, to me, are like angels in human form.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Unaya, and he is actually from Melchizedek.
Ah.
So he is quite high up, and as well. And his associate's name it's pronounced Yo, but it's spelled Y-E-O, like Yo, but they pronounce it Yo.
I also noticed in the book that he seemed legitimately saddened. I guess Frank was sitting with him at the time that President Kennedy was assassinated.
Yeah.
And it seemed like he was also trying to prevent that from happening.
Well, that's an interesting story that Dr. Frank tells. He was living in an apartment in Panorama City. He got a phone in California. He got a phone call from Bobby Kennedy, or one of his advisors. I can't remember. And they said, are you going to be around? They said yes. Bobby Kennedy flew out, came with a couple Secret Servicemen to his apartment. He demanded to know if Valiant Thor was real, and he told them yes. And he said that he wanted him to get Valiant Thor, and he wanted to meet him right away. And Dr. Frank said, well, you have to write a letter. That's what everybody has to do. And you can give me the letter, and I will give it to him. And I guess Bobby got irritated at that.
Of course.
But they went into Dr. Frank's office, and they typed out a letter. And he gave it to Dr. Frank. And Dr. Frank then at some point gave it to Valiant. And then we flash forward to 1968, where Bobby Kennedy was killed in the Ambassador Hotel. a few days prior, Valiant had invited Frank for the first time to come and visit Victor 1 and told him to come to Encinitas and that they would meet him there and they would take him to the ship. And actually this time the ship was stationed out over the ocean, so they took him in a boat and they just drove the boat. They were, the thing comes down, they just drove the boat up into the craft. And he met all of the vice commanders pretty much for the first time. And they brought him into Valiant's office, and they were watching it on their holographic television. And he said one of the questions that he asked me was, should he run for president? And I told him to wait 4 years.
I saw that. That was profound.
Yeah. And then they're watching it, and they're telling him that they're watching this in real time. And then on the television it shows them shooting him and him dying. And Val was crying and Teal was crying, and Val said he didn't listen to me.
Wow.
So it was a pretty profound moment, Now,
didn't Frank also discuss the fact that when he came up in the boat and then the boat went into the ship, and then didn't this ship go into like a bigger mothership or something?
Yeah, it probably went into it could have gone into the Starship, which is the 14-mile long, 7-mile wide ship.
God.
Yeah, it's gigantic. I mean,
Wow.
It's just gigantic,
I thought it was especially fascinating when he was talking about, when he went in there and that he had to go into the some sort of quote unquote shower to be so-called purified.
Yeah.
Did he talk to you a little bit about that? Like exactly what was happening? Because they weren't using water. What were they using?
No, you would take off all your clothes and you had to leave them in that room, and then you would stand in this purification water or mist or, would come down, cleanse the body, and then you would get a uniform like they wore, and you would put one on, and then you were allowed to come into the ship so that no contaminants whatsoever from the outside world come in. You have to realize when you're inside like Victor 1 and all of these craft, it is pure 100% God energy. It is like Dr. Frank even would say to me, and here's an interesting thing that I always found fascinating is, if you wore glasses, you didn't have to wear glasses. If you walk with a limp, your limp was gone. You were back to fully being 100% in your perfection. Right?
Nice.
But once Dr. Frank, when he had told me he had gone to the ship, this was in the early stages when I was writing the script, he called me from the ship.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, where are you? Are you at the hotel? He goes, no, I'm on the ship. And I go, you sound so different. And he goes, I do? And I was like, and then I realized that he sounded like a young man when he was talking because he was on the ship.
Interesting. They say that when your loved ones reappear to you, they usually reappear around the age of 30, 31.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they absolutely do. My mother passed away in 98, and she actually came to me in 2010 and appeared in a full apparition in her 30-year-old body.
Awesome.
Looking gorgeous, just letting me know she was around. Yeah, the photo is stunning. Yeah, the photo is beyond anything. People, I mean, our family members, when they saw it, just burst into tears.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, if your mom has visited you, have you had that same experience with Valiant Thor visiting you?
I had the experience of him visiting me on the very first day that I started writing the script.
Wow.
he came to me in the dream state and showed me the whole path of the movie and everything before it, and that he was the one who was guiding it. And I've never had to worry about anything. It's like magic appearing. It's
cool.
Incredible. So
yeah, they call it a download, but it's just it just flows. I've had the same thing. I like to write a lot, and you get into that mode and you just can't stop.
I know, and you're just like, wow, this is so great. And then you walk out into the 3D world, into a mall, and go, whoa!
Where did I come from?
That's right. But yeah, I did have that experience, definitely with him there. And then on the last day of writing the script, I had called Dr. Frank to ask him a few questions, and he had his voice on that was like somebody else was in the room. Sure, I'll ask him. Okay, like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, all of a sudden I heard a man start speaking in the background and giving the answers. And then Dr. Frank just burst out laughing, and he goes, oh, well, he's actually sitting right here.
Oh, my.
And so he gave me the answer. I could hear the answers being given, and Dr. Frank would repeat them. And then I went, okay, great, well, thanks. And I hung up the phone, and I went, and I didn't think to say put him on the phone. I didn't, I was like, oh, it's one of those Jedi mind swipes.
One of those opportune moments that will never be repeated again.
I know, but, I'm such a firm believer that if something is meant to be, it's meant to be. So, but it was cool.
Tell everybody a little bit about Frank's near-death experiences. I mean, he from the moment that Valiant Thor came into his life, it seems like he was immediately a target by the Men in Black, and I was very interested in that. And are you incorporating that into your movie? I would assume.
No, because it's you just have a short period of time to tell a story. And I had a conversation with Dr. Frank in the beginning. I said, look, I can make this your story, or I can make this Valiant Thor's story. I said, I think the audience is going to want to know about Valiant Thor's story, so you would be the secondary character, that comes in. If it's your story, then it's everything that happens to you. So,
good point.
So we both decided to make it Valiant Thor's story. So, because, that's what people on Earth would want to know most about.
Right.
So Dr. Frank comes in and, so we see the things that happen to him and how when the proposal and all of that is turned down, how Dr. Frank actually becomes the grassroots deliverer of the message to keep it alive and keep it out there.
And boy, did he do a good job.
He did a great job. He went on tours with some of the biggest people on the planet. He was on stages even with Werner von Braun, and, who were all saying that all of this technology and all of this stuff is true and all of that. And,
Well, if you're saying that this is about Valiant Thor's story, tell me a little bit more about Valiant Thor as far as I remember reading that he just couldn't wait to become a commander. And did Frank go over the way in which he was selected to perform this mission?
Well, he knew he was getting the commission, but he didn't know when. And evidently it was a long span of time. And he was getting very antsy. So when the commission finally came for him to come here, he was so ready and so ripe and so excited, to come here. And I think a big part of this world that's different and unique from others is, it's the place where, Christ came. It's the place where, the rebels were put under the earth. It's the place where there's so much universal history that goes on here, on top of all of the different nationalities and belief systems and religions and all of that. You don't find that on other dualistic worlds throughout the universe. You might find dualistic worlds, but they're of whatever their race is. Here we're sort of this hodgepodge, so it's a very unique place to be and exciting at the same time.
So this was quite a mission to receive. Then it was probably quite challenging.
Yeah, it was a huge mission. So and of course they wanted his technologies. They wanted all of that stuff, which he was not allowed to give them, nor would he. But I think that they from once he arrived and then dealing with people who are dualistic in nature and are aggressive, I'm sure it was a different, unique experience for him.
Oh, I can't even imagine. It's got to be. Well, they say that one of the main reasons, for example, that the Ascended Masters do not appear in 3D physical form is because it's such a massive. It's very challenging to their own field to give up that connection and come into such a dense environment, And I would imagine the same thing applies to Valiant Thor.
Absolutely, and all of them, because they're all here living, but they're in their protective bubble in the ships. And the energy from home for them is keeps them there. But when they're out of that environment and they're here, the experience, I'm sure, is completely different for them, because they're doing that. I mean, there's lots of them that are living on Earth that aren't starseeds, that are, from out there, who are actually working and living and doing jobs. I can imagine what that must be like for them.
Oh, yes.
Who have integrated.
There's many of us that are starseeds, Craig, and I'm sure you're one of them.
I think so.
So now I have a question for you. I got a little bit confused about this. He made reference to Dawn and Thawne, and what was the female's name? Teal, as his family. Were they truly his? How does that work?
No, they're his family in the way that your mom's best friend becomes your aunt.
Okay.
In that sense. No, that because Valiant Thor is not born from man and woman. He's born all that angelic kingdom is born from the cosmic womb, as we call it.
Right.
So they're born from the pure thought and then come into being, and so that's why they don't have belly buttons. So because they're not from that. Now Dawn and Teal and Thawne and Zan all have belly buttons.
Oh, they do.
But because they're born of man and woman. Now Unaya, who is from Melchizedek, the University of Melchizedek, he does not have a belly button as well.
Now, which one was the one that wasn't there a Cyclops on board?
Yes, that's Yo. That's Yo.
Okay.
That's Yo, and he's Unaya's associate. They're from Dr. Frank said on the opposite side of the universe than us, there are planets that are numbered, and that Unaya's from planet 777, and Yo is actually from planet 555.
Interesting.
So that but that they're sort of a team. They're a team, and they joined Victor One. From that, because and then if you connect as you get through I Am Thyron, you'll understand the coalition of both these projects, because they really do coincide.
Yes.
You'll understand because Thyron is a college professor who teaches mighty messengers who are coming into as star seeds into Earth on how to transverse from mortals till Christ to raise the consciousness up. And then there's all the different other class of messengers that are coming in. All of this comes out of the University of Melchizedek, which is a outer space city of 490 worlds.
Wow.
And you can see them from one end to the other. It's quite spectacular.
Wow.
So Unaya is also from there. Tehran is also from there. At some point, too, when, these are already going and movies have been done, I'm going to merge both the stories.
I think it'd be a great idea to bring in the old with the new.
Yeah, I'm going to bring them in.
I was also going to say, isn't this basically representing the Galactic Federation of Planets, or a lot of people call it the Confederation?
Yeah. And we call it the Galactarian Alignment of Space Peoples and Planets, which is the same thing if you want to call it the Federation. But that's more of a Star Trek term.
And you are planning on a trilogy, aren't you?
I am, yeah. And book 2 will be out next year. And that will be fully illustrated as well. And then book 3 after that. And we'll have the short film done by probably next February or March. And, people can get a copy by, making a donation as well. And so that we can finish it and also get it in film festivals. And then that's going to accompany our big giant package that goes out to all investors so that we can go and make the correct spiritual film. And then we can go and sell it to distributors because we've made the film the way we want, and nobody told us how to make it.
Right on.
Right.
So now your goal is to finish this by March of 2014?
Yes,
okay.
Because the visual effects we have, just in the short film alone, we have over 68 visual effects.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we are going on board a giant mothership. We're not going on the starship yet. I'm saving the starship for the big movie. But we're going on a giant mothership in the landing bay, in other quarters there. We're going on board Victor 1. We're seeing Victor 1. They're actually building Victor 1 now.
How involved are you in this? Like, I know that you're casting director and producer and all that. I mean, are you on the set all the time?
Well, for Stranger at the Pentagon, I'm the writer, producer, director, art director. I mean, I oversee it every day on a daily basis. So until it's done, it'll be the same when we do the big feature film as well.
So you're burning serious midnight oil, huh?
Yeah, well, the thing is I know the way it's supposed to be done, so, master teachers don't come to you and give you beautiful information for you to hand it off to somebody else. So,
no, this is true.
They're showing you, they were showing me the way that it visually looks and the way that, because when people see it, they remember it. I have gotten probably in the last couple of months about 50 emails from starseeds who said that they have never in their life been taken out into the universe and been activated as they have reading I Am Thyron.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, I just love your book.
Yeah. So
everybody check out Craig's book. It's called I Am Thyron. It even has a foreword by Sylvia Brown.
Yeah.
And it is without a doubt. It's almost as if it's triggering your memories.
Yeah.
It's triggering timelines and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Can I give out the website
Please
as well?
Do.
So, of course, if anybody wants to make a donation to Stranger at the Pentagon or check out stuff, just go to strangeratthepentagon.com. And we also have the book Outwitting Tomorrow, which Valiant Thor was an advisor on, which nobody can get anymore as well.
Wow.
That's also in there. And posters of all this stuff as well. Victor 1 and the blueprints and all that kind of stuff. And then I Am Thyron, the website's Autobiography of an ANET Galactic.com. Or if you just type in I Am Thyron into Google, it'll usually come up. It's just the subtitle.
We did, Craig, we did put your mounds, and I might say mounds, of Facebook, Twitter, IMDb, your websites. I mean, there's so many sites for access information. So that is all available when the newsletter went out today. So people will have access to information. Now, quick question. I did notice in the book that Frank talked a lot about how Valiant shared Hollow Earth and black hole theories and Bermuda Triangle. Do you have any cool stories about that before I let you go?
I do of the Hollow Earth. Dr. Frank said that, that there are just these incredible civilizations. I myself, I think Dr. Frank said there were 4 really beautiful advanced races and 3 negative. One of the negative are the grays, are the bad grays they're like in there. But interestingly enough, when you ask for something for a very long time, I've been asking to see the beautiful inner Earth, and they actually showed it to me. They woke me up one night and then showed it to me like a projector in my eyelids.
Really cool.
And it was so breathtaking, and they only gave me 3 seconds of it. Mm-hmm. But I remember it profoundly. They only give you a blip like that of 3 seconds because it lasts more. It's more of an imprint in your memory.
Yes.
If it goes on too long, then you sort of get lost. So
I can relate.
It was just so beautiful, and and he said that that Valiant goes down there and visits with them on occasion, and they go and they visit a lot of different places as well. Throughout the universe, if something, like sometimes one of the vice commanders might be gone for a couple of months because a separate mission takes them away.
How cool! Doesn't that just sound so exciting?
It really and truly is, and I will say that there have been many people who have emailed me, and I have met several people who have met Valiant Thor who were old. Went way back into the 60s and had met him back then, and that several people had emailed me saying that they were people in the know and that the story is true. But I can't prove any of that, but just being the filmmaker, sometimes, people just send me little things, of what information, that they might have, so, but I just find it all fascinating, so, and exciting as well.
I know, it is. And now the University of Melchizedek, were you informed about that through Frank? Or was that on your own research?
Well, I'll be, that's also another long story, but before I knew Dr. Frank, I was actually working with Thyron and with Unaya. But that's another long story. But
we'll just have to have another interview again.
You will. I would love to.
I love this. Everybody check this out. The Autobiography of an ET.com. That's where you can access his book, The I Am Thyron. And I just love this. The Galactarian Alignment of Space Peoples and Planets program to raise consciousness on Earth is underway to ready the populace for universal society. Now, who in our group, whether you're into UFOs or spirituality or even conspiracy theory, who would not be interested in reading about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. This is exactly where we are all chomping at the bit, just trying to find out any information that's going on behind the scenes with what's really going on behind the shutdown of the government and everything right now. So this is just perfect for everybody. So please support Craig. He is doing really good work for our planet through the film industry. And Frank, I just really want to thank you for taking the time to chat.
I had so much fun. I can't believe it went by that fast.
I know. An hour just flies. It just flies. But I also, before I let you go, I was really impressed when I read about your private coaching.
Yes.
And if you wanted to put a little plug in about that, I thought that was really interesting that you actually work with people that can provide you a drama or a comedy. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, because I've been a casting director, that's what I do. I work with actors all day long, and you know, and I've learned how to get them from A to Z over all these 30 years in a short period of time. So I actually do private coaching with actors or people who are wanting to get into acting. You know, I can do it over Skype as well, and I can provide them, you know, comedy or drama scene or, you know, anything that, you know, that they would like to explore, you know, or if it's commercials or hosting or hosting your own TV show or, you know, things of that nature. So,
Very
and
cool.
you can check that out at my website, which is CraigCampobasso.com, and that has all of the casting projects on it as well.
Very cool. Well, everybody, the other website again is strangeratthepentagon.com, and just keep looking for his release of his new film. And he's a busy guy.
Yeah.
But thanks again, Craig. You really are an inspiration to many of us, because truly we all, especially those that live in California, we know how influential the film industry is. Big time. And this is really such an important area for us to, what's the word? Not invade, but penetrate, you know, with the light, you know?
Right, that's right.
Anyway.
That's right. And the more that, you know, the more that everybody heads towards the light with themselves, it just brings the planet that much closer to universal society and the world of love and peace.
Big time. I couldn't have said it better.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Connection radio show. And please, if you have a chance, please donate to my site. It is a free site. I am doing everything in my power not to put in all the funky garbage ads to keep it a free public service. So, again, I love you all. Thank you. You guys rock as far as an audience. Take care and have a wonderful day. Thanks again, Craig.
You're welcome. Blessings to everyone.
Bye, everyone.